Okay, so we started with the journey of financial statements some weeks ago. We started with analyzing income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow statements. And we looked at some of the ratios, how we look at the things um, from the financial point of view. Does business making profit? Are they making enough return on equity? Are they making enough returns on the equity we have with the business? Do they have too much leverage? How much debt to equity, and etc. So we are coming to the point that we covered the basic most important things like return on equity, return on assets, return on invested capital, and now we coming to cash flow statements. So we will cover cash flow statement ratios that we have to look at, and the one which we are looking at the end are the most important one. Free cash flow statement is most important than any other ratios that we have looked from the financial statements point of view. That's what we would be covering today and next week. With that, we would probably conclude the financial statements and analyzing businesses from the business financial point of view. Okay, so this week, since we spoke last time, quite a lot of things happened. So we had a Charlie Munger session uh, in February, 2 weeks ago, where uh, Charlie Munger, who is Warren Buffett partner, he's also running. He's also chairman for a Daily Journal Corporation. So it was a newspaper company, but they bought into other businesses over the time, and then they are now transitioning into the software side of the business. They are making software for legal system, courts and lawyers and judges. So they are making. So he conducts this session every year, Daily Journal Corporation session, and in those sessions, people ask questions in all directions, and Charlie answers those questions bluntly. He doesn't want to uh, use any filter because he's above 90. He's actually 99 years old. He doesn't care what world thinks about him. So he tried to answer them straightforward, bluntly, and it has a lot of knowledge. I mean, if you just try to get the try to understand what he's saying, you'll get a glimpse of what he's thinking, right? So that's something we will cover today, and we also had annual letter coming from Warren Buffett yesterday. So Warren Buffett publishes his letter every year, last week of February, and then we have the annual meeting first to second week of May. So it was yesterday where he published the letter. We can find it from the Berkshire Hathaway website. And Warren is also 91 now, so he's also sharing a lot of wisdom. And I would suggest, if you have time to read these letters from, I think on his website, he has letters from 2000, 1977. So, so if you go to their Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway website, we can see his letters here, Warren Buffett letters to shareholders, and you can read it from 1977 till 2022. I mean, there are some other old letters. Actually, he's been writing since 1966. They're also those are also, yeah, 1965 actually. So those can also be found here on this link. But yep. So we would also cover what Warren is saying about investing life, especially last 50, 55 years of investing life in his latest letter to shareholders. So that's what we would be covering today. So we'll be covering highlights of what Charlie Munger has shared, and then we also look at what Warren Buffett wrote in his annual report. By the way, these letters are equivalent to getting MBA degree from college. If you are curious to understand the business world, many people, not just Warren Buffett, many people who read these letters since 90s, they always come back and say that this letters has more knowledge than MBA degree. So if you go to MBA course in college or university, these letters give you more knowledge than what they teach in MBA. Actually, some of the teaching in MBA colleges are not relevant for the real life, but this letters has more insight. So I would recommend, if you are curious, I read it myself. I've been reading it for last 5 6 years. I would recommend, if you are interested to learn about businesses, human behavior, how management behaves, better to read those letters. You can also get them in PDF. So if you have a tablet, you can put it on tablet, and using pencil, you can start reading them daily, 10 pages. Within 6 months, you will be finishing all his letters. So, okay, that's enough about Warren Buffett letter. So, again, I want to start this session with this Morgan's Housel statement that maybe I don't know if you have come across this between your friends when you're talking about these topics. Mm, People think we talk about money and investments um, for buying more expensive stuff or living lavish life. But that's not true. The reason why we want to make investments is to have control over time. So the end goal is we want to live um, life um, without somebody else is controlling our calendar. That's the goal of this journey of financial independence. Or Morgan Housel wrote it quite well. I- It is ability to give you control over your time. That's the reason we are doing these investments and learning about this financial education to get control over our time. So that's come back to the point that we want to become financially independent, and that comes back to the point that we talked about this 4% withdrawal concept. I think this we talked last summer. Before that summer, how much money you need to, you can say that you are financially independent and retire for life. So we talked about 4%, 2% withdrawal ratio. So that's the goal of these sessions. I want you to start early in life, and also you should have a um, goal of getting financially independent and getting control over time. So if you work for somebody, then your boss and the team has control of your calendar. But if you are becoming financially independent, then you have control of your time. So that's the goal of the investing, and why we want to put effort to learn this, because we want to have control, not to buy next model, great car model, or buy most expensive house, or buy next crazy thing, right? We just, we are not doing that for the purpose of showing off rich. We are doing it to purpose of getting control over time. Okay, any questions? I just want to reiterate, we should not forget our goal, why we have started this sessions. So this is our ultimate goal. I think some sessions in the future, we can sit and calculate the number you need to have if you want to retire. Let's say you are in your uh, um, assume you are in your 30 age between 11 to 13 years. So let's assume you want to retire it by 35 when you become 35. So that's another, yeah. So 26 years, 27 years, and then we calculate how much money you need to have in order for you to say that you retired, and with assumptions that you would finish your college master degree by age of 23, and from 23 age 35 you would work for a corporate life or whatever the thing you want to do. It could be a sport or whatever, and then see how much money you need to have in order for you to say that you are financially free, right? So we can do that in calculation, and give you the number with the inflation adjusted number, based on your expense ratio. We can take some number as a expense for you per month and then calculate how much money you need for you to retire by age of 35. That would be around 2048, 49. That's when you would be retiring, and then what number you need, and then do the backward calculation in order to achieve that number. What are the things you have to do in life? So that's a good mental exercise, that you, if we do in 1 or 2 sessions, you get idea of what number you are looking at in order for you to retire. At same time, what is that you need to do in order to, um, this is one of the mental model called inverse. You always inverse the problem, understand, in order to achieve that result, what are the, you work backwards from the result towards the solution. That's called inversion. So that's one of the mental model we could use to calculate how much, look at what are the things we need to do. Okay, any questions before we proceed? Okay, we talked about the letter, so let me take the whiteboard. Just a second. So I have downloaded the letter here already. So so this is the letter, and let's. I will also help you to understand. See, I'm using iPad with a pencil, Apple Pencil. So you could always, when you're reading something, you want to make a note of something, then you can always use this, uh, and store it in, OneDrive or Google Drive, wherever you want to store. I'll also show you how you can read a letter, that would help you. So here, Warren Buffett is comparing Berkshire performance versus S&P 500. So he's comparing Berkshire with S&P 500. So here, this is Berkshire, and this is S&P 500. So he's comparing from the year 1965 all the way to 2022. Okay. So why it's 65? This is when he started the partnership, Warren Buffett partnership in 1965. So for, I'll give you example of a couple of years, and then I'll summarize what does this table is telling us. Okay. So let's look at 1965. 1965, S&P 500 gave a return of 10%, whereas Warren Buffett partnership gave a return of 49%. Okay, so that's the comparison he's giving to understand. So for example, 1966 S&P 500, when you see brackets, it's a negative number. Okay, it's a negative. So so in 1966, S&P 500 gave negative 11.7% return, whereas Warren Buffett partnership gave negative 3.4% return. Likewise, he gave all the years numbers. You can look at all the years. I'm interested to look at 2000. That's when the IT boom burst. So let's look at how much was it. So in 2000, S&P 500 was negative 9.1%, whereas Warren Buffett made a positive 26.6%. So this is when the bubble burst, IT bubble in 2000. Let's look at 2008 and 2009. This is when the major financial crisis has happened. So 2008, Warren Buffett had minus 31.8%. Uh, S&P 500 had a minus 37.0%. So this also tells us you have to build a muscle power when there is a next financial crisis happens. A company that owns, including Berkshire Hathaway, or if you are doing indexing. So this is, by the way, S&P 500 is nothing but the indexing we always talk about. So if you do indexing, there could be a chance that your investment to go negative minus 37%. Historically, it also went to minus 60%. Some days it was also 80%. Remember, he's doing yearly returns, not daily returns, right? This is not a daily, everyday returns or every month return. This is year by year. So you don't get the daily fluctuations, variations in these numbers. It's a yearly return. So you need to prepare that if you invested, let's say, 100,000 or 10,000 or 1 million, you may see one given year, even though you invested in index fund, you lost 370,000. Okay, but you should not get panic and go and sell the shares. So you have to build a muscle, emotional muscle in your brain that this is part of the game. Sometimes we have coldest days. Worst, we had a cyclone hitting Denmark 2 weeks ago. That doesn't mean that it will be always a bad weather, right? We have a shiny days also in summer. So you have to always think about long term and should not get panic and sell off. Selling at the worst time would be really bad for our returns. Then you are selling at the wrong time. Yeah, Lokit, you have a question?
Yeah, so if the numbers in the brackets, does that mean the shares are negative?
Yes, the is returns, not the share value. This is not the yeah. It
But
could be a share value.
it says yearly share value though.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So
But then why'd
during
you?
that time, let's say if it was $100, I'm just giving an example. It would have lost $31. So that means it would have been like $69.
Yeah, but
Yes.
then why don't they just put 60? What then? What does 28.7 mean? The one above that?
Yeah, this is let's say um, you started with $100 here.
Yeah.
Okay. Then first year it went by 149. So because it's
Oh,
49,
went up by 49 and then went down by 3.4.
yeah,
Goes up by. So how much was it in 2022?
it's
It went up by 4.
4%. But he also did a calculation from 1965, exactly what you are looking. So he did a calculation from 1965 to 2022. It gave a return of 19.8% CAGR, compound growth.
So it was 119.8% at the end.
No, this is the percent. It's um, how much it is. So it's 37,087,664 percentage terms.
And what about for the other one, S&P 500?
It's only 24,708%.
What
So
does the percent mean?
uh, so I can give you a simple example. So you remember Rule 72 we talked about, right? So
Yeah,
what Warren Buffett is saying, he got 19.8%. So let's assume 20%. It's just
yeah,
0 point. Then let's assume this is 10%. Okay.
yeah,
This is Berkshire Hathaway and this is S&P 500. Okay.
yeah.
So applying Rule 72, 72 divided by percentage 20. How much 72 divided by 20?
It's like 30 something, 30.5, I think. Yeah, around 30.5.
Yeah. Let's do that. 72 divided by 20 is
3.5,
3.6.
3.5. Oh, 3.6.
So this is 3.6 years. Okay. Now same we do for 72 divided by 10 equal to 7.2 years. So literally Warren Buffett is doubling the money every,
3.6 years.
yeah, let's assume 4 years. Okay. To simplicity, 4 years. Okay. Whereas this one, let's assume 7 years. They are doubling every 7 years.
Yeah, so basically they're doubling it twice, like like twice the amount of S&P
Exactly. Almost, yes.
because it's 3.6 and 7.2.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
if you put this into Excel and give some number, let's say every 4 years, right?
Mhm.
So that's the percentage he already gave. So if you put $100 into Warren Buffett partnership versus S&P, so this was percentage terms it would have increased by. So let's say if you put
Oh,
one
so
dollar,
so the numbers, they're percentages.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yes. So $1 invested in Warren Buffett partnership would have become, yeah, 37,087,664. Whereas
Yeah,
$1 invested in S&P would have become to 24,708.
that's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. That's the reason Warren Buffett became world's richest person.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mm, that's how he compounded the money over the years. So, by the way, this table you would see in all his annual report. First page of his annual report always is a comparison between S&P 500 and Berkshire Hathaway. So, so this is just a example how you should, look at these numbers to understand what he's trying to explain. So, so we looked at financial crisis period. This is the financial crisis period, next last financial crisis, and 2022 it was 4% versus minus 18.1% S&P 500. So, so yeah, this is also another reason why I was suggesting you to buy Berkshire Hathaway because it's a combination of many companies. It's not anymore single company. They have many companies. They own 6% of Apple. They own 10% of Coca-Cola. So they have portfolio of companies as well as they have individual businesses that they own and operate. They have biggest railway in America owned by Berkshire Hathaway. They are completely owning. Mm, so it's basically you are indexing in this case, and also you're getting all the other businesses. So either you can invest here directly or you can also invest in S&P 500. Okay, so this is the first glance of the comparison that gives you perspective. You know, even Warren Buffett had some negative years. You can see many negative years. So though it would not be a straight line. If you take investing life, it will not be straight line. So you see many negative years even for Warren Buffett, whom we call it as the greatest investor for the last century, right? So so even S&P, if you simply gone with S&P investing, simple indexing, you have some negative years. So that means that doesn't mean you should get panic and sell off your investments. You should. It's actually the reverse. When there is a negative, then you should go and buy more if possible. Okay. So that's first, and then he talks about all the things, and then I want to highlight. Um, so he gave some real examples of some of the investments. See, in our investing life, whatever it could be, 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years. In case of Warren Buffett, it's for 50 years. He did many investments, but few investments gave the most returns. It's also like with our life. We try out so many things, but few of the things that changes our life. So same with investing. So one specific discussion with a friend or teacher or a mentor or father or mother that changes your life. Same in investing, that few ideas changed the whole Berkshire Hathaway returns, right? So he gave example in up to 1994, Berkshire was buying Coca-Cola. So they were buying. So I think they started 1986 until 1994. He was buying Coca-Cola every year. So he gave an example. So the total cost. So basically, he paid 1.3 billion. That was a major significant amount for Berkshire Hathaway. So 1994, he paid 1.3 billion. Okay, and now he is explaining the cash dividend we received from Coke in 1994. You remember, dividend is something, one of the capital allocation. I think we talked about a few weeks ago about capital allocation. As a CEO, CEO can do the share buyback or also give a dividend to the shareholders. But we talked about dividends has some negative impact. Anybody remember what is the negative impact of dividends? Paying dividends to shareholders. Dividends has two levels of taxes. Two levels of taxes. One at the company level. As on company pays dividend, government comes and takes the percentage of the dividend amount that they have announced as a tax. And then individual level. If you own share, when you are getting dividend, you would be treated as your income, and the SCAT will come and take tax out of your income. So that's the disadvantage of dividends. But anyway, Coke was giving dividends because they don't have any other use of cash. So they are giving back the cash they are earned for a year to the shareholders. So if you do rough calculation, so 75 million is what he got as a dividend amount. So 75 million is what he got for a year 94. This is dividend amount. So can anybody guess what is the dividend yield? So what is 1.3 billion? It's around 1300 million, right? So 1300 million versus 75 million dividend. So it would be roughly how much? This is 10% is 130 million. So roughly 4%. 5% is 65 million, right? 5% of 1300 is 65 million. So The way you can do simple percentages is, this is 13 million is 1300 million, right? 1.3 billion. So 10% of 13 million is 130, 1300 million is 113 million. That's 10%. What would be 5%? That would be 65 million. Yeah. So what dividend, how much dividend amount that Warren Buffett got for 94? He got it 75 million. So it's around more than 5%. So I would say around 7%. So this is called dividend yield. So dividend yield that Warren was getting for Coke investment for 94 was 7%. That's a pretty good dividend yield. So for every 100 crore you invested, you are getting 7 crore as a return. So, and he also continued. So this is 1994, and now 2022, sorry, 2022, 2022, he got 704 million as a dividend. Look at the compounding effect. So he invested 1300 million in 94. Okay, 94, and from 94 all the way till 2022, Coke was paying him dividends every year. Okay, but if you look at only 2022 number, um, that's about 704 million. Can anybody say how much would be 704 million out of 1300 million? Around what is 50%? 650, right? So it would be around 60%. So he's getting 60% of what he paid in 94 as a dividend every year. And what Warren is doing, he's taking that money, whatever 75 million, 95, whatever the amount he got over the years, he's taking that money back and investing it in other businesses. So that's the great example of compounding, right? So when you start, you doesn't see it's a big number or doing anything, but gradually over the years, if you have a great business like Coca-Cola, um, if you look back, what is the great characteristics of Coca-Cola? It's a daily consumable business. People consumes, and it's a very less expensive in the individual people's monthly expenses. Coke is almost negligible for the people who are buying it comparing to their monthly income, and it's a recurring buy. People wants to buy it whenever they want to drink any soft drink. So that's an example of Coca-Cola, and similarly, he gave an example of American Express that he bought, and so on. So that's you can get some insights, but it takes time, right? Knowledge also compounds. You may not able to understand all these sentences when you read first time, but once you start understanding the concepts what we have discussed in our sessions, start reading from early years, you will start getting the ideas what he is trying to share. And so in this, he was basically saying in your investing life, or in general, he was telling in Berkshire investing life, few ideas gave great returns. He was nailing down to 10 ideas. 10 investments gave the whole wealth that Berkshire has created over the last 50, 60 years. Very recently, it was all one of the big investment was Apple. That also he invested around 30 billion, and that became 150 billion. This we are talking from 2016 until 2022. So few ideas can change life. That's what he was trying to explain here with examples. Okay. One interesting idea he explained here is with example of amount of tax paid um, by Berkshire Hathaway. of course, he's just so so United States, USA collected $332 trillion as a taxes, and then they spent. This is for last decade, so it's from he is talking decade. So that's 2011 to 2021, and then he says Berkshire paid $32 billion as a tax, and then he give example of if you have $100 bills, if you put $1 million, $100 bills, what would be the height of the amount of tax paid? So here he gave the amount of tax that Berkshire Hathaway paid for last 10 years, 32 billion. If you put 100 dollar bill stock, it would be at the height of 21 miles height into the sky. That's where commercial airline flies. So he's just trying to give you a perspective of how much tax US government collected out of that amount, how much tax Berkshire Hathaway paid. So, and then how much it would, pile up to if you put those tax number into $10 bills. So that's an interesting way to look at the things. You know, when you read these letters, you also get how these people thinks, right? Like Warren Buffett, you can get into your brain and understand how he's thinking about things. So that gives you a perspective how he's thinking of things when you read these letters. And he also highlighted few ideas from Charlie Munger, because Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett both are partners since last 60 years. They are good friends as also partners, and he gave some insights of um, ideas of Charlie Munger. So first one is very important. The world is full of foolish gamblers. So he's Charlie is saying this in this and uh, gen Daily Journal annual meeting. You can also watch it in YouTube. So the world is full of foolish gamblers, and they will not do well as a patient investor. The reason he's saying this one is that with the cryptocurrency and all this bubbles we are seeing around us, he's saying people wants to get people wants to get rich quickly. So people, that's the reason they are gambling. They are trying to get a rich quick. But if you are a patient investor and invest in the real businesses and wait until they mature, then you'll do well comparing to the gamblers. So that's what um, Charlie was saying. So, and then he also talks about, when is the next annual meeting and etc. etc. So basically, it's 11-page letter, but first page would have the always the returns comparison versus S&P, and then he shares some anecdotes from the real life, because he's the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway. He's looking after almost 80 Berkshire Hathaway owned businesses, plus 30, 40 Berkshire Hathaway's invested businesses like Apple, Bank of America, American Express, etc., etc. So he's sharing anecdotes from all those businesses in this 10-page letter. Okay, any questions? Okay, let's go back here. So I saw somebody, let me see if, yeah, I saw somebody created some, yeah, summary of those. So I just want to share them based on the Warren Buffett letter. So Charlie and I are not stock pickers; we are business pickers. So basically, what Warren is saying in the annual report is that when you are investing any business, you need to think like a business owner, not buying a share or stock. You should look at that you are owning the whole business, not the one share or 10 shares or 100. Even though you are owning only 10 shares, you should always think like a business. You are picking a business, and you are the owner of the business. So that's totally different ball game than just looking at the stock price and understanding uh, changing this. And then the next is, you have to keep learning if you want to become a great investor. That's another most important thing that we are doing these sessions. I know some of you may wants to take this investing as your lifelong career, but remember that if you want to become a great investor, you must be a learning mission. You have to be, you have to learn all the different domains, and also you should also willing to change your mind based on your learning. So that's, you have to keep learning if you want to become a great investor. When the world changes, you must change. You know, Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, they have been investing since 1966. Uh, just look at the things, how things have changed over the years. We got color TV, we got mobile phones, we got microprocessors, lot of things changed. We got internet, we got so many new age companies like Google, Apple. But when they started in 1966, there were no such companies like Apple or Microsoft or Google or so. But they evolved, and then they um, invested in those businesses as on, then knew about the new thing. So you have to be a learning mission if you want to become a great investor. If you say, uh, uncle, I don't have the time and courage to do this for lifelong, then you better off investing in, Berkshire Hathaway or S&P 500 or any index funds. So then you can focus on your own career, whatever the career you want to pick up. This is most important thing that I took away from the Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. Having long attention span and ability to concentrate on one thing for a long time is a huge advantage. With the mobile and social media, we are not able to focus on things more than few minutes, right? We have been bombarded by alerts and everything. So if you have, um, you know, uh, ability to concentrate on one thing for a long time, then that's a huge advantage. If you want to buy great businesses, or you want to become good investor, then you have to wait for the right price. You don't need to go and do action every day, because markets are opened every week. So you don't need to buy and sell every day. If you just focus and say that I will be patient, and I will be patient, and I'll wait for the right prices, then it's a huge advantage. Sometimes market go south, that means it will go downward spiral, where you can get a great businesses at a thrown away prices or bargaining prices. But for that you need to have a patience, and then you have to wait a long time. So that's what Charlie Munger is saying. If you have a patience and focus on long term, one thing on, and wait for long term, then you may uh, get a huge advantage. So here again we talked about capital allocation. So basically, Warren Buffett, whatever um, Berkshire Hathaway businesses that they are owning, all the money those businesses makes, that will be sent to Warren Buffett to allocate them to other opportunities. So that's the reason it's a capital allocation. So Warren Buffett job is allocating capital. All these businesses he's owning, they pump cash every year. So all that cash will be sent to headquarters in Omaha, or Warren Buffett allocating those cash to, buying Apple shares or American Express shares or Coca-Cola shares or any other privately owned. So he's basically saying all 58 years of capital allocation decision pointed to few uh, uh, investments they made. Um, so basically, another way to look at is, let's say you are a doctor, you are a heart surgeon. Okay, can anybody tell me what would be the implication of her error for a heart surgeon? Let's say he has a 5% of error or failure rate, or 5% of error when he is doing a surgery because he's a heart surgeon. What would be the implication of that? Can anybody guess? So if you are a heart surgeon and your error or the failure rate is 5%, what does that mean? That means if you operated on 100 patients, 5 patients would have some complications. Either they would die or they would come back and it required a resurgery because you did some mistake when you did a surgery. That's a 5%. That's the reason doctors, especially surgeons, should have accuracy ratio of above 90%, 90, sorry, above 99%. Then only they become famous doctors and blah blah blah. So what I am trying to say is, some professions like medical profession, you need to have high accuracy, and failure ratio should be very low. Whereas investing business, even if you failed 50%, you would do well, because remaining 50% will take care of your returns. Do you see the difference between surgeon profession versus investing profession? I'm trying to give. Let's take an example of any other profession you want to pick it up, and look at what is the error ratio that profession would support, and the effect of that to the. Let's say you are a cricketer, and I assume you don't perform 50% of time. Would you be selected for IPL or national team? No, right? Because nobody wants person performing only 50% of time. So, but in investing world, I think that's what this slide is telling, and Warren Buffett is saying. Even though in last 58 years, Berkshire invested in many businesses, few dozens of them created made the huge difference. Even though 50 or 40% of their businesses or the investments they made failed, they overall did well because of this business that allows you to have some um, errors. Okay. Yeah. When you reflect on this sentence, I also get another idea. So basically, what Charlie is saying is, the world is full of foolish gamblers. When you have, imagine you are in the world of 1,000 people, and you have 990 people are gambling around you. What happens when the panic hits the market? All these gamblers also get panic, right? Then that's when you get share prices or businesses that are sold for thrown away prices. So that's interlinked with this other idea which Charlie was saying. Having long attention span, ability to concentrate on one thing for long time is a huge advantage. So if you are not a gambler and you are waiting for the right time, the environment around you, because world is full of gamblers, like people who wants to become rich quickly. You get a lot of opportunities, so you need to wait, and um this is linked back to Marsamillion test we talked about some sessions ago. Okay, so this is yeah. If you are interested, you can also watch the video of what Munger is saying about cryptocurrencies. He's basically saying that's a bad idea, and it doesn't do well for the investors. That doesn't have any value. So that's his view. You can also watch out. Um, and Charlie also shared one example that how he helped Berkshire Hathaway. So basically, he suggested Warren Buffett to buy BYD. By the way, BYD is a electric car manufacturing company from China. It's like Tesla of China. So Charlie suggested Warren Buffett to invest in BYD. So Warren Buffett invested in BYD in 2008. Was it 2008 or maybe before that, 2005 or 2006? Warren Buffett invested $270,000. That investment is worth now $8 to $9 billion. Okay, so that's a huge returns. If you do the calculation, 270,000 becoming to $8 to $9 billion in the span of 15 years. So imagine, yeah, so that's what Charlie is saying, that I this is one idea that I suggested Warren Buffett, that created $8 to $9 billion uh, value for Berkshire shareholders. This different ideas adds up to that table we talked about in the Warren Buffett letter, right? The returns, every year returns. All this is adding up to your overall 19.8% return we talked about. Okay, any questions? Anything you want to ask or reflect? No? Okay. So we will start with free cash flow. So I would recommend you to watch Charlie Munger videos. If possible, all the videos you can find it in YouTube, and also try to start reading Warren Buffett letters. If you start reading at the age of 13, you would have a huge advantage by the time you reach 1920. Even if you take a business course or any other thing in your life, it gives you perspective how to think about investing in our life. So I would suggest both of this if possible. To start early, you would have a huge advantage. Just read 10 pages every day, or every week 10 pages would also good enough if you are looking long term perspective. And if you have some questions, you can always come back and ask in these sessions. Hey uncle, I read this letter, and he was talking about this, but I didn't understand. Can you please explain? Then we can quickly go through them for a couple of minutes, and I explain you what he mean by that. That would help you. But I suggest you to start reading them, and you would have a huge advantage in your life, of financial or investing life, if you start reading them. Okay, I was unlucky. I got to know them when I was 30, not when I was 13. So you have advantage over me, over 17 years if you start reading them. So, okay, so now let's quickly watch video about free cash flow, and then Oh, we already 10:55. Okay, then let's close it here and we will talk about free cash flow because I know some of this videos is more than 10 minutes, so I don't want to take up the time. So, are there any questions before we close?
No, thanks for today. Bye.
Thank, thank you. Bye. Have a good weekend.